Obviously there's a bunch of internet critics out there that I admire, and I've always thought it to be interesting for them where they both either they'll have a serious review or they'll have something funny. Like they'll both add humor and good insight to their movies. And I always admired that, and I don't know, like obviously with me, I grew up with, it's like I grew up with comics and movies, and it's like I've grew up enough with it to where I was just like, I felt like I kind of had an understanding of in high school. I did the newspaper's film reviews because I think one of my friends like recommended it to me because again I was just like talking film and everything. Liked doing it. I liked talking about movies, and there was finally a point where I think it was either near the junior year or senior year, I did a few reviews and people actually did see me and came up to me and were like, that was a good review. Because yeah, like for a while I was just like, does anyone read my reviews? But again, I didn't really care, but it was just kind of like, did you see the paper? I wrote something. But no, it's glad that like people seem to like my opinions, and again, like I don't try to be forceful. And for me with like movie reviewing, I guess I don't try to be like, the snobby film critic and just completely say what's completely bad about it. I really try to like find some entertainment out of it. Like, one of the people I admire is Cinemassacre, James Rolfe. I think he's a really very impressive film reviewer. And that's one of the reasons is that like he'll review crap, like he'll review bad like B movies, but like he makes them so entertaining, and I admired that, and I found that was like the same with me, where like I'll watch a bad movie, but like if there's something in it that I'm like, yeah, but you know what, the prosthetics and the makeup are really good to where like I think it's a decent movie, stuff like that. No, like I had a film class, and I've had friends who are even more into film than me that like when I talk to them, they tell me, and like I have a full understanding of how that works, and I'm just like, and I'm learning from them. And I've had a few teachers like that, and I don't try to force my opinion. Where me as a filmmaker grew from, because I just talked film, but like I don't have, again, I've only had like maybe 2 classes in high school about filming, and it was both were like actually 3 classes. 2 were like on film critiquing, and then 1 was about like filmmaking. Obviously, so like I'm not like, I haven't gone to like a school for film, and even like even some of the teachers I've had at my art school have been like, you talk so much about film, like why aren't you at art school? Or why are you at art school? And I was like, film is art, so that counts. There's a lot responsibility with film that sometimes there's a lot more pressure than like for an illustrator. I mean, there's always pressure for an artist and everything, and even illustrators, but yeah, like I just feel like there's almost so much to take with like if you want to get into film, that I'm just kind of like, I don't want to just like, all right, I talk film, but can I do it? And as far as like me, as what I think of myself when I'm filming, I think I'm pretty average, like if someone honestly thinks I'm bad, then whatever, I don't care. I'm still learning. I'm always learning whenever I'm filming, even like when I'm working on a new project, or I know what to do. I'm really just learning, and I hopefully it'll look good in the end and everything. I've always looked at just many films and noticed like different shots and how they're handled. And so, but you know, I just want to entertain. That's really all it is. So, the one thing I did work on in sophomore year of college was this film I made with my improv group called The Monopolist. Yeah, the movie is about, we basically came up with this idea where it was about a possessed board game. This was sometime after I think Robin Williams died, and you know, we were talking about like just Jumanji and some of his other films, and I don't know, we were thinking about Jumanji and how, you know, that was a specific board game and everything for like jungles and you know, like animals and all that. But we kind of kept thinking like, you know, well, what if there's like more games and like all these different games that have that ability to like just cause chaos or something. And I mentioned that idea because I mentioned that idea to the group because I figured that was like the simplest idea we can do. It was based off a small idea me and my friend came up with, but it was a very small part of that idea. Again, the idea that me and my friend had is not at all what we did. But basically what we came up with was that a cop and his friend, well, when they were young, they played with this board game, and then, you know, of course, chaos erupted, and one of the friends, Matt, I remember that, Matt, he ended up kind of getting just like scarred and messed up, you know, just kind of hooded character. But his friend, he ended up deciding to become like a cop and maybe finding that board game again, because they threw it out and then it was like, no, we got to destroy it and everything. So later on he finds it and he calls his friend Matt, and they basically talk to figure out how to destroy it, because what has happened is a local gangster of sorts, he gets the board game in an auction and it causes him to become like possessed and everything, so now he has this like dark power with him. And so basically the cop friend realizes this, and he tells his friend like, we have to go stop this guy before he causes any more chaos, like from what we know. And you know, basically they get their friend Rachel, who's part of the force, and they end up finding the gangster, PB Duncan. Matt and the other two cops, they have to stop PB Duncan from basically spreading chaos and everything. It's basically what I will dub as a practice film, in that there's a lot of things that I wish I could have done more of, but with what we had and what we did, it's good. Only I will know that, and only the people who are close to me while working on it know that. Like, we're an improv group, and one of the ideas was to instead of have like a full script, have the film be improv'd. And not that I know for a fact there's been films that have done that, and I figured, since again I was the one talking film and everything, I'll direct it and I'll write it. And it was a collab piece, you know, as far as like the writing goes and the story. But basically I had to come up with like the structure of the whole movie, and you know, everyone would then improv it. Basically, I think what that film suffered from was a lot of dialogue. Or like, if we had a lot more time, there would probably be like just action scenes galore or whatever, or just at least beats to where it's like, you know, okay, action scene, dialogue, action scene, dialogue, action scene. You know, to be fair, the actors, they did a good job for what they're getting. You know, I give credit to a lot of those guys because, you know, this was just like it was a crazy idea, but in the end, like, we came up with like a pretty decent product, you know, and as far as me goes, like it was again like a whole entire learning experience. Like I really got an understanding of like how to make a film, and it wasn't like a whole hour, but it was at least like I think it's like 45 minutes long. And it's mostly because we're working on it while we were in school. Luckily, the teacher, the improv teacher, she was very great, and I would like meet with her every Monday, and we'd pretty much have our cooling session, say what's going on, what's well, like what we should change. Kind of going back to the whole improving thing, there was at one point where we had 2 scenes we filmed, and I will fully admit I did not like shooting those scenes, because we actually decided on that day to have like a time between of when we would do this scene and then we'd do the next scene. And like it was, I'll say from 6 to 7 we're gonna work on this scene, and then 7 to 8 we'll work on the next scene. We were still working on the first scene at like 7:30. Then one guy even had to one of the main actors had to leave, and it's just like, all right, we gotta go. And again, like those 2 scenes, just when we shot them, I was like, this isn't going well at all. But then, as luck would have it, something ended up happening with the audio and the like video quality for some reason, like on both of those scenes we shot. And part of me would normally probably be like, oh no, what are we gonna do? But instead I was like, we get to reshoot those scenes. So I talked with the teacher, and I was just like, I think, I asked, because I was afraid to almost like, should we reshoot it? I don't know if we'll have time. She's like, oh yeah, we can reshoot it. And she actually came up with the clever idea of, let's write those scenes. And we actually got one friend of the group, Ben Agrella, who was a writer, and he was willing to write for it. And basically one night we just got together and we were like, all right, let's just get these scenes out, let's write these scenes out. And we did, and those scenes actually, of the 2, they're probably the ones that I do like, because again, we had a script, we had dialogue, we know what we were saying, we know how we wanted to shoot. Those were like the 2 scenes where I was like, okay, this feels right. Yeah, the film was shot entirely on iPhone, either 4S or 5. It was either one of those. And that actually worked because, like, as much as like people want big cameras, I always realize this is like, as much as people want big cameras, because even though they have the great quality and everything, the smaller ones are actually a lot better, because you just get to have better shots and get better angles because it's so small. But I will admit, like, a camera is a little bit better just because it has more like a filter, and just you can get. But like the problem I'll say with shooting on an iPhone is that if you want to get a high shot or a low shot, you can't see the screen, so it's really hard to determine like what it looks like. So and this is kind of a tip if you're like someone like me who's just a very small indie filmmaker, which is if you're doing like a small independent film, like as a project and everything, you're just getting your friends around and you really want to create a big movie, really understand your limitations, because you're not going to be filming a scene like in LA or whatever, that's not going to happen. Or even like like a car crash. As much as that would be awesome to have a car crash scene or whatever, odds are depending how you can get it, if you can get it, you're not going to get that scene. So but now that I do projects like in my free time or just when it's not in school, I can do whatever I want and it feels great. The stuff I work on now, because I know I have like an in-pocket like production, like as far as money goes, I know I have to really think about it and say like, okay, can we build this or whatever, like can we do that and everything. So when you're doing a project on your own with your friends, it feels great, and it actually feels a lot better. Like you feel like you have a lot free range. There's still those limitations, but you still have a lot of free time and everything. Overall, that film was a learning experience. Is that usually I try to come up with simple stories. I don't really tend to try and be too complicated. I usually just try to be as simple as possible, because, you know, I think of some of the, again, like the films I grew up with, or I've watched and I think are great, and I realize, you know, they're not that difficult of a story. It's just simply you know, Marty McFly goes back in time and he has to get back somehow. You know, there's a shark attacking Amityville, and three guys of Amityville have to go out and get the shark. You know, like, very simple plot. And again, there's those little parts, but overall, the summary of the film and the storyline of the film is very simple, to where you know the story. Like, you don't need to. It's not like in the middle of the film where you just get completely lost and you're like, I don't remember what this was about.